Steyn was shot in the groin during a protest against police brutality in May last year, and now he has been issued with a warrant of arrest. Steyn is a national security advisor who specialises in white right-wing extremist groups and domestic terrorism. Bradley, thank you so much for your time. It's evening here, so I would imagine it's morning there, so good morning to you.
Hi there. Yes, it's 11:16 in the morning here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Fantastic. So the last time, Bradley, that you were on the show, or rather on the channel last year, it was right after you'd been shot by the LAPD during that Black Lives Matter protest. You were shot in the groin. How are you doing now physically and perhaps mentally?
It's been a long journey to try and heal, and the rehabilitation has taken a long time. Physically, there are issues that I'm dealing with, but psychologically, this has been more challenging for me because after 30 years of putting the Steyn Square massacre behind me, which I witnessed as a teenager, with wrapping up a documentary, I went to a Black Lives Matter march in honor of George Floyd, and I saw horrible police brutality at the hands of the LAPD, and it's brought a lot of those emotions and feelings back to me. It reminded me a lot of the apartheid era law enforcement on that day.
Now, you were shot during that protest and you ended up in hospital. Thereafter, you sued the LAPD, but the city has retaliated against you and filing criminal charges against you. What charges are you currently facing? Talk to us about just some of the merits of what the city's case is.
I obviously can't go too far into the details of the case, but what I will say is that, I've been charged with assault on a police officer and evading arrest. So, but before that, my attorney filed charges against the LAPD and against the police officers, and, we prepared to fight this.
And do you think, obviously, their charge is in retaliation to your lawsuit? Do you think they have a case against you? A strong case, rather?
That question I can't answer just because of pending litigation, and I don't want to get myself into any trouble. But, what I am prepared to talk about here today is the state of law enforcement in the United States and what the problems are, with the police unions that hide these racist police officers within their ranks, and, standing up for and against police immunity, because police officers in the United States get immunity from prosecution. So there's activists out there like Killer Mike and Bernie, the guys from Ben and Jerry's that are, advocating that, immunity from police prosecution is done away with. So that's what I'm really trying to advocate for, so that, we can deal with social justice here within the police arena.
And speaking of social justice, if I can just bring in a comparison there in terms of how police are handling different protests. We know that the Black Lives Matter movement has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, how different were BLM protesters treated compared to former President Trump's supporters that stormed the Capitol, leaving police officer dead?
Well, it's actually disgusting. The way that the protesters handled themselves. I'm sorry, the way that these marchers, domestic terrorists, handled themselves when they stormed the Capitol, when Donald Trump told them to go and storm the Capitol and he would be with them. The charges that he's facing right now in his impeachment, the way those people that marched upon the Capitol, they were handled with kid gloves, and there's a vast disparity between that and the way that they handle Black Lives Matter protesters. And again, what I saw at the Black Lives Matter march and the way that the police aggressively handled peaceful citizens, they've set the town of Los Angeles on fire with their violent handling of the situation. And I know what it's like to be on both sides of that coin, and it's just disgusting because people are fighting against systemic racism, and but when it's a bunch of Trump supporters, they get treated differently and with preferential treatment.
All right, Bradley, thank you so much for your time. But very quickly, just perhaps tell us, when do you go to court?
So there's two cases now. There's a criminal case, and that's going to court within the next month or so. And then once that's sorted out, then the criminal case goes to court. But I'm not going to rest. I'll fight this because this is. We can't stand by after all these years and watch racial injustice in the United States continue the way that it has. It's not okay.
All right, Bradley, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with your legal struggles.